Have you ever had one of those days? You know the kind I mean. Nothing catastrophic happens, but by the time you get home, you feel like you've been through a war. Maybe your boss criticized your work in front of everyone. Maybe a client complained about something that wasn't even your fault. Maybe the traffic was so bad you sat there for an hour, watching the minutes of your life tick away. And then you walk through your front door. Your kid drops a glass of juice, and suddenly you're not just annoyed, you're furious. You hear yourself yelling, and somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet voice whispers, "This isn't about the juice, is it?" If you've ever felt that sinking feeling of guilt after snapping at someone you love, I want you to know something. You're not a bad person. You're not broken. You're human. And today, I want to explore why this happens, and more importantly, how we can start to change it. Let's start with a simple question. Why do we save our worst behavior for the people who matter most? Think about it. At work, you probably keep your cool, even when things go wrong. If your boss says something unfair, you don't scream at them. If a coworker makes a mistake that affects you, you probably handle it diplomatically. We've all learned to wear a mask in public, to filter our emotions, to be the professional version of ourselves. But the moment we get home, that mask comes off. And sometimes, what's underneath isn't pretty. Psychologists call this phenomenon displacement. It's when we can't express our frustration toward the actual source, so we redirect it toward someone safer. In family therapy, there's another term for this pattern. They call it the safe harbor paradox. The paradox is this: we hurt our families precisely because they love us. We trust that they won't leave. We believe, somewhere deep down, that they can absorb our worst moments and still be there in the morning. And while that trust is beautiful in theory, it can become incredibly destructive in practice. Let me paint a picture that might feel familiar. Imagine your emotional capacity as a bucket. Every frustration throughout the day adds a little water to that bucket. The rude email from a colleague, that's a splash. The meeting that went nowhere, another splash. The news that your project got rejected, a whole cup. By the time you get home, that bucket is filled to the brim. It doesn't take much to make it overflow. A child's loud toy, a spouse asking what's for dinner, a pair of shoes left in the hallway. These tiny things become the trigger, but they're not really the cause. The cause is everything that happened before you walked through that door. Here's what makes this so tricky. In your workplace and in public, there are consequences for losing your temper. If you yell at your boss, you might lose your job. If you scream at a stranger, things could escalate. So your brain learns to bottle it up, to push it down, to save it for later. But that emotional energy doesn't just disappear. It has to go somewhere, and tragically, it often goes to the people sitting across from you at the dinner table. Researchers figured this out almost 100 years ago. Back in the 1930s, scientists developed something called the frustration-aggression hypothesis. The basic idea is simple. When we're frustrated, and we can't direct that frustration at the actual source, we find a substitute target. In the old days, people used to call this kicking the cat. You can't kick your boss, so you kick something smaller, something that won't fight back. In modern families, that something is often the people we claim to love most. And here's where it gets really painful to think about. We often choose our family members as targets specifically because we believe the relationship is strong enough to survive it. We think, consciously or not, "My wife loves me. She'll understand." Or, "My kids look up to me. They won't hold this against me." But every time we do this, we're making a withdrawal from an emotional bank account. And if we keep withdrawing without ever depositing kindness and patience and presence, eventually that account runs dry. This pattern is especially harmful when children are involved. Think about what it looks like from a child's perspective. They don't know about your quarterly report. They have no idea that your client was unreasonable today. They don't understand that you've been fighting traffic for an hour. All they see is a parent, someone they love and trust and look up to, suddenly transforming into someone scary. When a parent uses a child as an outlet for displaced anger, that child learns some very dangerous lessons. First, they learn that love is unpredictable. One moment, everything is fine. The next moment, the person who is supposed to protect them is the source of fear. This kind of unpredictability can create anxiety that follows them for years. Second, and perhaps more troubling, they learn that it's acceptable to take your frustrations out on people who are smaller or weaker than you. They don't learn this from a lecture. They learn it by watching. And years later, when they become parents themselves, they often repeat the same pattern without even realizing why. This is how cycles get passed down through generations. The stressed parent becomes the model. The frightened child becomes the next stressed parent, and on it goes. There's another layer to this that we should talk about. It's not just psychological, it's biological. Scientists have discovered that self-control is a limited resource. It's like a muscle that gets tired. Throughout the day, every time you bite your tongue, every time you choose patience over frustration, every time you resist the urge to say something you'll regret, you're using up a little bit of that resource. By the time evening rolls around, your brain is running on empty. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic and impulse control, is exhausted. Meanwhile, the amygdala, the emotional and reactive part of your brain, is still fully charged and ready to go. This is why 6 or 7 in the evening is often the danger zone. You're tired, you're probably hungry, your mental defenses are down, and your family has the misfortune of meeting you at your most vulnerable. Have you ever noticed that the same situation can feel completely different depending on when it happens? The spilled juice at 10 in the morning might get a calm response. The same spilled juice at 7 in the evening might trigger an explosion. The situation didn't change. Your capacity to handle it did. So what do we do about this? How do we break the cycle? The first thing I want to say is this. Awareness is already a huge step. The fact that you're listening to this, the fact that you're thinking about these patterns, means you're already moving in the right direction. Change doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen when we start paying attention. Here are some approaches that might help. The first one is what I call the decompression chamber. Before you walk from your car to your front door, give yourself a transition period. Even 10 minutes can make a difference. Sit in the car and listen to music. Take a short walk around the block. Just sit in silence and breathe. The goal is to create a buffer between your work self and your home self, to let some of the pressure escape before you enter the space where your family lives. You might even tell your family about this. Say something like, "I need a few minutes to shake off the day before I'm ready to be fully present." Most families will understand this. In fact, they'll probably appreciate it. The second approach is to name what you're feeling. When you notice the anger rising, pause and say it out loud. You might say, "I'm not actually mad at you. I had a really hard day, and I'm feeling frustrated about things that have nothing to do with us." This simple act of naming the emotion does something powerful. It separates the feeling from the target. It reminds everyone, including yourself, that your spouse or your child is not the problem. The third approach is to check in with yourself before you react. There's an old acronym that therapists use. HALT. It stands for hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Before you respond to anything that irritates you, ask yourself if any of those apply. If the answer is yes, your reaction is probably being shaped by your physical state, not by the actual situation. Eat something, rest for a moment, recognize that your irritability might not be about the present moment at all. And finally, when you do slip up, and we all do, repair the damage as quickly as you can. A genuine apology goes a long way, but it has to be specific. Don't just say, "Sorry I was grumpy." Say, "I'm sorry I raised my voice about the shoes. I was actually stressed about something at work, and I took it out on you. That wasn't fair, and you didn't deserve it." When you apologize like this, you're not just repairing the relationship, you're teaching your children something invaluable. You're showing them that adults make mistakes, that it's possible to take responsibility, and that love means caring enough to make things right. I want to leave you with one final thought. Your home should be the place where the world stops hurting you. It should be a refuge, a place where you can let your guard down and be accepted for who you are. That's the beautiful part of the safe harbor. But here's the thing. That safety has to go both ways. If your family is your safe harbor, then you also have to be safe for them. They deserve the best version of you, not the leftover version, not the exhausted version that's already given everything to strangers and colleagues. I know that's hard. I know that some days feel impossible, but even on those days, the people waiting for you at home are not your enemies. They're your teammates. They're the ones who will still be there when the job changes, when the clients move on, when the traffic finally clears. Tonight, when you turn that doorknob, take a breath, remember who's on the other side, and give them the gift of your presence, your patience, and your peace. They're worth it, and so are you.